Hey, my Yankee Doodle dandy.
Okay, it's recording. That's the first song that popped in my head, Jess.
Set, huh?
Mhm.
All right, I'd like to call to order the Fallbrook Regional Health District Finance Committee meeting. And today we will be reviewing the August financials. Are there any public comments?
No.
All right. Do we need to call roll?
No. Directors DeVito and Salmon are present.
All right.
That's the nice part about having it be recorded on Zoom. It's obvious to tell that you're here. Once the camera switches.
Yeah.
As soon as you guys start talking more, the camera will pick you up. Right now, it's us.
Yeah. Change it over.
So, let's take a look at report number one, the balance sheet. And Sally, for all of these reports, I'm gonna ask if you have any questions or comments, and then if you haven't raised any that I've noticed, then I'll note those.
I have no questions.
So our checking account was down 45% from the previous month, and I assume that's because we didn't get any revenue into our checking account.
That and we paid out the first bulk of grant checks. So expenses up, income down.
And wasn't there a sizable transfer to
Yes.
One or the other.
Yeah, and we also remember did that $300,000 transfer out of the operation account over into CalTrust.
Okay. That's all I had with respect to the balance sheet. Let's do P&L Wellness Center first.
Okay, so for report 3 then,
Yeah.
just trying to make sure we're paying attention.
Well, it's just because there's nothing in there that's worth counting.
That
Get
too.
rid of that
Wellness center, you said?
Mhm.
Okay.
unless, Ellie, there's anything you'd like to question or comment with respect to the Wellness Center P&L.
No. I mean, do you think we should wait until Tracy gets here for that one, just in case she has something?
I don't think you'll see anything. There's no big oddity. The only thing I'll point out is you'll notice for report 3, both admin and wellness, we've moved to a slightly different version for our treasurer's ask that gives you these, and this is actually the default report out of QuickBooks, so there's no editing to it. But there's really nothing of note in here that's really significant. If you are looking at Wellness Center, you'll see that there was a little bit more of an expenditure in the district direct care services under health services and clinics. About, 14,000 more than we budgeted, which is fine and good. And actually, if we're going to have an area that we spend more than budget, the direct care services is an area that I give Teresa pretty much free rein, as long as we're not, crazy on it. But one of the things, and we've talked about this in strategic planning and the board, is that we knew at some point the free resources we might get from the county or free resources we might get from community partners would be fewer. And for the services that we know we want to offer, we may have to hire or contract with facilitators to do that. With the county this year, mental health first aid did not receive any of their funding from the county. That was cut entirely. Well, that was a long-term good program for us that was having good turnout. So Teresa was able to contract with 2 of the instructors from mental health first aid. And so that we can continue to offer those services. It's just, we will now pay them directly instead of being able to utilize the free resource where the county was paying that agency. So you'll see a few of those things come up. And so that's where you'll see these line items get a little bit more bulky on the expense side. In some ways, that balances out, because if you go back to the admin side, district direct care services, remember we had put in quite a bit of money for health services and clinics with the hope that we would have been able to fast track those clinical services. That hasn't come in yet. So that funding hasn't been expended. So our quote unquote savings in that line item more than offsets the increased spending from the wellness center on that line item. And that's if you're just comparing across the entire district budget, not just the 2 divisions.
Okay.
That was a long-winded, but I just wanted to point out, since I knew that that was one area where you were going to see a more significant expense.
Okay, so let's move back to report. That's PL.
It's still 3, but for admin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I have a note that says Boys and Girls Club Fitness.
Mm-hmm.
And so we didn't spend anything, and we've got a budget of $20,000.
Yes. So basically what that is, the youth fitness grants, remember, don't get approved until after our fiscal year start. So we get them started, we eventually know that they're going to get paid out, and then they didn't get paid out until this September month. So
This month, right?
Well, they actually are getting paid out in September.
Oh, and
Right, which is why you see that value there for where it's budgeted. And it's actually in the wrong, it's listed as Boys and Girls Club Fitness Grant, but it's actually 4 different entities, so it just, the whole line item should say Youth Fitness Grants. Because there's 4 entities in there.
The one below it is.
That is their,
The budget and over and under is the same amount.
the one that says Boys and Girls Club of North County. Yeah, that is their community health contract.
Okay.
That's separate from the Youth Fitness Grant.
And why is the actual?
Right.
29,000 and the budget is. Because the rest of them are equal.
Well, the over and under
The
is
actual
minus
budget, but
like
with that
that
one.
one plus 19. I brought that to Marnie's attention and,
Oh, that is a good question.
I thought that maybe the 29 should be allocated to the 2.
That I didn't see, so we'll need clarity on that.
Okay.
We'll have to go back and look at that one. The youth fitness one is the one that caught my eye and I understood. I didn't look at the farther one down because I knew it was a community health contract, but I didn't notice that discrepancy.
Shows as over budget.
Maybe it was accrued in, August.
good catch.
And then,
Maybe we'll have to double check it.
and then the Hospice of the Valleys. 2277, which I guess wasn't budgeted.
That is because that is not a grant from community health contracts. That needs to be moved down into health services and clinics.
Okay.
Because that is a contracted service,
For the
not a
grief-
grant
for the
service.
grief.
Correct. So I need to have those corrections made.
You're putting Boys and Girls Club into the health services and clinics? Is that what you're saying right now?
No,
No, okay, I just want to make sure.
Hospice of the Valleys
Right.
is supposed to be in that. The first Boys and Girls Club, North County, where it says fitness grant,
That's the
she has
youth.
all of those. 4, those are supposed to be a separate youth fitness, so she'll need to make that correction.
And why is it not just a solid 20,000 then?
That whole thing I'm gonna have to look at. I'm
Okay.
not sure I'm not sure what that looks like and why that's messed up.
Okay,
Because the rest of the grantees make sense, are in alignment, but Boys and Girls Club are not, and Hospice of the Valleys is in the wrong line item.
And when you're referring to she, who,
I mean, Marnie, our bookkeeper,
okay, all right,
sorry.
no, that's fine.
and you've always kept the North County Fire JPA in there, not
It has always lived under our
grants?
grants
Okay.
because it's not a direct care service because we're not offering it. We're grant funding to that external agency. And that's just more of a historical difference.
Okay,
And when will that 100,000 get paid to that entity?
When they send me a bill.
Oh, yeah.
It usually ends up happening at the end of our fiscal year. I budgeted at the start because I have no idea when they're gonna budget.
and then we tend to harass them for the bill.
We end up harassing them.
Send me-
I actually have it 100,000 in the first half of the year and a second chunk at the second half of the year. Because again, I don't know when they're going to bill for that. And a lot of times it depends on when their equipment actually gets delivered to them. Like they may have already ordered it, but it hasn't been received yet. So.
They've been a little distracted lately.
Well, yeah, with the loss of their coworker and the start of their fiscal year, it would typically not be when this comes in, so both of those are an impact for sure.
Speak, anything else under community health contracts, Sally?
Nothing jumps out at me.
Now direct care services, there's, we haven't spent anything, so we've got $83,000
Right.
right there.
Right.
Ready to go.
So medical records, is this always the Stone Mountain?
Iron Mountain, yes,
Yeah,
Mhm.
yes.
Stone Mountain in Georgia.
Yes.
Okay, we've done the wellness center. And I'd like to move to the check detail, please.
Okay.
Unless anybody'd like to stop anywhere else?
Susan, do you want to make any statements, in particular to the investment compliance report as it is now correctly titled?
Yeah, what's that title?
Mhm.
I love that.
And I updated the investment policy to the current fiscal year.
Thank you, to reflect this fiscal year, right?
Boy, next month's funds may be really big in terms of the market.
It's,
Yeah, I know.
Volatile.
We're very conservative, right?
yes,
Okay, well,
you don't see the giant shifts in our investments specifically to the fact that they're meant to be stable.
conservative. So the check detail, I'm not sure I ever pay much attention to that. And so I'd like just to look at August 4th as an example. And there's no name. And there's a negative amount, and I don't understand that.
Payroll.
Okay,
That must be payroll is what I was thinking.
It is, but she should have a note in there that, yeah,
It usually
But it's
says
something.
ADP because it's the 4th, and so that's when I run
Yeah.
payroll on the 5th.
yeah, I was gonna say, don't we have it? It should show up again around the,
Shows on the 4th.
yeah, it
and
shows
the
up on the
18th.
20th.
Not the 20th, it shows up a day or two before the 20th.
Well, this one, for August, it hit on the 20th and it says ADP.
Right.
Hmm.
And then right below that one, the 300, that's the transfer to.
That's the
Okay.
transfer too, so she's not
She's
making
not
those
making
notes.
the notes.
Okay.
So that's another reminder to be specific about the details.
good. I'm looking at CalPERS above that,
Mm-hmm.
and that just brings to mind that some are red and some are black, but not always.
Typically, the red is, that was what, well, that's what we actually paid. The one below it is actually what the billed amount was. Is that correct, Susan? What the bill, the expense is and the money out?
For the allocation between accounts.
Right.
Yeah, and the top of the 5,000 is what she allocated to admin employees. The bottom is what she allocated to wellness center employees for their benefits.
And then the red 9,000 is the actual total amount that we sent out.
And
So-
would
so-
that 9,283 be the sum of the two?
Correct.
That's actually all I needed from. the
Yeah,
check
I kind of
register.
had that same, thought, like with Iron Mountain. It's red and then black, then like all the rest of them are red, then
The
over
difference is
here, we
the-
get back into black again.
Check, the first ones are checks or journal entries, and then the last are payments through tables. Or bill payment.
Mhm.
It's just a technicality inside of QuickBooks Online. Okay.
So I don't have anything more on the check detail. So, unless Susan, you've got anything, we can move to Visa.
Report 6,
I don't have any questions about that.
okay.
Yeah, and again, for the credit card statements, you'll still see Umpqua in there because we keep that account open. But you'll see that it is not one that we transfer a lot of expenses in and out of. Generally, what hits that still are the occasional software expenses that are required to roll through credit. So you'll still always see both of those statements as long as they're both open.
That would move us to report number 7. Community development disbursements. Don't have any questions about that?
I'll just make a note, you'll notice on 829 under Wellness Center, you have a secondary payment of 22,950 to Scott Coleman Scott Architecture.
Right.
That's Encinitas Design Group.
Oh, cool.
They just were going through an ownership change when we contracted with them. So they used to be Encinitas Design Group, but they're moving to this Coleman. Todd Coleman is our architect. So it's not a new vendor, it's the same vendor, just shifting of a name. He is done with all the design work, so this was a payment to that benchmark. We have to submit a minor deviation to our major use permit out there because we're expanding the footprint. That has been some paperwork that I didn't know how to fill out, frankly. So I went to Alex and to Todd, and they're both going to be helping to complete that paperwork so we can then submit that to the county so we can go into permitting phase. So
Alex is gonna.
well, Alex does a lot of land use for his client, which is City of Sierra Madre. So there's a lot of land use with that. So when I started filling this out, I forgot that we have an attorney that knows actually how to do things. I don't have to do it by myself anymore. Lisa.
Hello.
And so I sent it over to Alex and was like, hey, any chance you can, he's like, yeah, I know how to do this. I do this all the time. It's my bread and butter. I'm like, why didn't I ask earlier? And then there's some stuff on stormwater and such that are more specific to San Diego County. And Todd said, oh, I know how to do that part. I just didn't know how to do this other part. So between the 3 of us, like I can do the basics. Todd fills in his part. Alex will fill in his part. Once that's complete, we'll work with Todd to take that to the county. We have a contact over there whom we worked with, Sean, from when we did the major use permit. Sean already gave me a nice clarification of what documents. So that should get cleared up fairly easily. Just as a side note, when we had to do the major use permit for the wellness center, where we took it from a church and school to a community health center, that process took about 1.5 years. Now, part of the reason was we had shift in leadership here. We also were in the pandemic, so the county had other priorities. So that took a little longer than it should have taken. So this is not expected to take anywhere as long, right? But it does mean that Todd and what was EEG, Coleman Scott Architecture, is ready for permitting, which is awesome. Because once that's in, they can put all the final construction documents together, because the permitting says basically your architectural drawings are sufficient. Then we can take those drawings, put together the request for proposals, the RFP for the general contractor, to build out the commercial kitchen. We should have the sidewalk done by then. Construction. Construction, public works.
Yeah.
So my favorite.
We're doing so well.
I don't think that's true, but we're getting it done with the right people, at least. Just takes a great deal of time.
I was just thinking, Teresa and Rachel and I went to ACHD, and we heard some financial presentations. And I'm wondering, because I don't remember, if there's anything we are coming back with that we should be thinking about at finance.
Nothing specific as far as the data we present. We did have a quick sidebar about the idea of bringing back some of the AI summaries. However, I was recommending to Howard that perhaps what we should do is either in this committee or another time, bring in Marnie, our bookkeeper, have Susan, basically the team, sit here and talk about not logistics of the reports, but what information are you specifically looking for, right? Because we can provide a report for anything. That's not the challenge.
Right.
But making sure that your understanding is clear and how bookkeeping is done in a certain way so that we all have the same understanding and that you're getting the information that you want from this. We have talked internally. Judith and I are working on a job description for bringing our bookkeeping back in-house as an employee. And I know I've discussed this a little bit, and adding that job to also then be able to be more of a systems person. I think Judith mentioned that some meeting recently, the number of software platforms that she's having to touch and manage is really grown exponential, which is not surprising. But we really need someone who can touch it and manage it a lot more. The addition of the EV charging added a whole nother layer of things that just need to be managed. There's a ton of maintenance that goes with that. And that is consuming a ton of her time, which means that the research into retirement programs or CalPERS or all the other more higher level HR or systems she doesn't have as much bandwidth for that. So we've developed this admin level position that would then support some of the operations so that Jess and this other position would always circle each other for front coverage. So that if I'm at a meeting, she's at a meeting, Raquel's coming in late because it's a board meeting date, Jasmine is doing a community event, suddenly there's no one in the building. And then Teresa may have 2 outreach events, somebody's going on, and we're finding that we're just having to shuffle staff around, which is fine. It's good. We can do that. However, we still need to make sure all the things are managed. So this is a potential solution. Marnie is the bookkeeper. This is not about her skill set. This is about what the district needs. So I do want to make sure that that's on the record. We would do some overlap of Marnie to this. With all that said, I still think meeting in advance while Marnie is still part of our team is good for you all as a board to make sure what you want to see in this. One of the things that's also different here than many other districts is that this is the only committee that I don't give the report. Most other districts, it is either the CEO or the finance team. They give the full report. Here, it is actually the board treasurer who gives the report. That is a legacy practice here from back when Richard Levering was our treasurer. Now, Richard Levering in town, big CPA, fairly good sized firm, was very, very hands-on. He also did a ton of the financials for when the hospital district was working together. So I think that that is how the financial became the treasurer's job.
I don't covet that.
Since I have been here 6 years now, there hasn't been a single treasurer who I think has coveted that job. So we can talk about if we want to make a shift in that, we can. It's completely up to the board.
What would that look like?
It would basically look like me providing more of a narrative summary that talks about these reports. So we wouldn't go through report 1, report 2, report 3. They would be in here, but instead I would have more of a written narrative that I would read out. You would have the reports in there to reference back to. So a lot of these contextual or narrative pieces that I add anyway would be in a written report on finance, but it wouldn't be the treasurer's report.
So what is your opinion on doing that?
Judith and I were discussing this yesterday. We need to in-house. We would need to change some of our process of how things are processed. Right now, things are very slow because Marnie comes in once a week. So between Marnie once a week and Marnie and Susan having to eventually line calendars, There are times when, and I'll use this example, last Friday, the financial reports came in. Well, I was in transit post ACHD and I had no chance to review them before Raquel had to put them in the packet. I hate that process, and it happens often enough. The good part is that by having in-house person who's here on a daily, these reports can get done much quicker. So Judith usually has all of the banking, all the reports, all the background for finance done the first week of the month.
Yep, everything is closed out the first week of the month.
For the prior month.
For the
Yeah,
prior month.
all the reports, all the statements, everything is, all the investment stuff is all done and downloaded the first week of the month. Jess is already working on all the credit cards, wrapping everything up. So we do our best to have everything wrapped up within the first 3 or 4 business days to try to move it along. My goal was always to have the second week of the month be the time in which we have everything closed out, so that ideally, and this is what I shared with Rachel, second week of the month, third week of the month, everything should be completed, done, and reviewed so that no one is ever rushing. Closing as late as we do at this organization is very different than I think most other places, so.
Right.
So, just to be clear, we currently do the second month from October. I mean, yeah, October, September, and we're doing August. Are you saying, Judith, that we should be?
No, we can't move the month we're closing.
Yeah,
just
that's because our board meeting is too early in the month.
Right.
Uh,
We can't move that day.
The board week.
Not without changing bylaws,
Yeah,
so it's much harder to change that.
This meeting. Weird month,
And this is a weird month
So.
because the very first day is
Is
the,
the first.
so while we couldn't move that, we could, from an in-house standpoint, move it so that these reports hit me and I have the entire 3rd and 4th week of the month.
Yes.
To review, make adjustments, corrections, things that we find. And by having someone in-house, it's a lot easier for me on a Thursday at 4 o'clock to walk across the hall and say, hey, what happened here? Oh, that was supposed to be,
why is that line
why
blank?
is that line blank? Why is this here? And that's just tougher to do when you have a contract person. So that's a big part of why we're talking about these shifts. One of the things that has been a frustration with how things work, a lot of our technology, no, all of our technology requires us to pay online, right? So we pay through a credit card. Well, when the credit card bill comes in here and it gets paid, unless someone, the bookkeeper, is taking each individual charge and taking that amount and then putting it into the right line item, we get one chunk that says 5-star credit. Bill in, bill out, paid. Then when I go to do budget and I say, how much do we spend on software? I have to go, last year, I had to go back to each individual credit card statement, highlight what the expense was for that software, jot it down, do my math, and add it in. That's not an efficient manner. And so to do that very labor intensive is going to be something that we need to move to so that we have more clarity on those expenditures, since we do spend so much more via the credit card process. Still very transparent. You can still see it, but it's not built out for historical reasons in QuickBooks. And that's a challenge to me. Judith and I talked about that significantly.
Yeah, because we do have the tools to do it. The bank provides us everything. It's just walking somebody through. We do need the employee. I'm used to being like, here's the Excel, because I have the Excel spreadsheets. I have the CSV delineated information. It's just walking an employee through the whole process and be like, hey, this is what she needs, provide it, put it in, itemize it, categorize it, and put it in for her so that anytime she needs it or any of us need it, we can easily download it and get it in a matter of seconds. But that's not something we can ask of a contractor. So we have everything we need. It's just walking somebody through.
And or it would cost us a great deal more to pay more contractor hours to do that. So again, this is a lot of what's going into our need to justify for this position. Making sure that it's reasonable and full-time and busy. And fills all of our needs here, not just this one need or that one need.
All right, 'cause another thing that's coming online is since we got Alex online, we also have the annual contracts that are gonna renew now that we're actually doing real contracts. And, you know, insurances that renew annually, that has to be maintained with a database, how we're gonna manage that, who's gonna assist me with that. You know, we're getting them all launched, we're doing everything great, but the maintenance behind that is gonna be pretty heavy duty.
Right.
So, the narrative I like, and even, I mean, not even, the AI/ narratives that we got were good. So I think anything you think makes more sense, I entertain that.
Well, and Judith and I were working on timeline. We're probably thinking this person wouldn't come online till, depending on holidays, blah, blah, blah. Let's say January 26th is when our start date is. We would absolutely want to have at least 1 month overlap of the bookkeeper contractor with this new finance systems person so that we have this good transfer of knowledge. So I would say I don't want to change our process until that other person is in place and we've got our timelines. It's just unwieldy otherwise. So I could imagine us, as we go into fourth quarter of fiscal year 25-26, which is April, May, June, that might be the first time we make this full change. Presuming the board decides in December that we're gonna keep everybody in their positions, because remember, you all vote your positions. That would be the recommendation I'd like to make. With your thoughts and prayers and hopes and dreams.
So the narrative that we've had until perhaps 2 months ago, when we were talking about compliance, I did not mean for that narrative to go away. I just wanted to have the compliance related to our investments. How hard is it to resurrect that?
While Marnie is still our contract bookkeeper, super easy. She could easily bring that back in. That's a program that she uses. So we could easily go back to that AI generated set of reports where this is all integrated into one. That's not difficult.
How easy is that really? Because sometimes,
Say that again?
is it truly easy? Because sometimes I thought it would delay it by a little bit longer.
It doesn't.
Oh,
It
okay,
doesn't.
because I was under the impression that it was, well, I had a review process and there were numerous
I don't want to
concerns.
resurrect something that's going to further delay when you're already getting so far delayed, Rachel.
Good point.
Because
Good point.
there were a couple times when I was requested to resubmit something because the AI component could not read what we submitted. I don't have the time for that.
No, and apparently that was part of your problem with it too, Susan, is that you were between what you had to add and what you had to add, that was slowing it down.
Right.
I didn't have a problem reviewing it.
Right,
It's just that there were
errors.
lots of errors.
It was,
So
yeah.
the long answer to your short question, I'll give you the short answer. It would be a challenge right now.
Yeah, I would prefer I would prefer the AI component come in when we do have the dedicated person who can do the first set of review thoroughly, efficiently, and then give it to us on a second level and be like, hey, I think I've got it 90% of the way, so that we're not expending our energies, you know, sending it to you 5 times for review. And I'm not being asked to resubmit 2-3 times because the system's not reading it correctly. So things of that nature, the person can resubmit it to themselves because the scanning machine, blah, 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 you know, all those little
Right.
technical pieces. So I think at the point where we do have the new individual, I think it would be best at that point.
So maybe we leave as status quo till probably that fourth quarter of this fiscal year, or until that other person is really in and trained up to a level. And obviously, depending on the candidate we get, We may come back to committee and say, let's wait till first quarter 26, 27.
Gotcha.
Hopefully, we have high hopes.
Well, I
for our
think that's why we're looking for somebody who's very tech savvy, though, Rachel, because we are looking for somebody who's very comfortable with going in through software administration. Somebody who needs to go through software administration needs to be very comfortable. Going through all the manuals, the components, and being comfortable with some of that. I mean, a lot of it is just self-taught.
Right.
So,
Good discussion.
yes, except for QuickBooks. Yes, but I'm saying
Yeah.
like being comfortable with the technology.
Yeah, right.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, someone who has used AI enough that they're gonna understand that if your prompt isn't correct, you're gonna get a poor answer. Or you're gonna submit something and you need to be able to critically analyze what's spit back out.
And even for those who have not used AI, somebody who's like, hey, I know how to reset a password, I know how to log into users, I know how to do that. That is somebody who's coachable. I
Yeah.
can coach somebody into the AI component. I think we've had great success with Jess, who had not previously used AI, but very comfortable with software. She's, doing phenomenal. So there's coachable pieces.
Good. Any other items for discussion?
I don't believe so. Otherwise, everything is pretty good. We had talked about the fact that we still want to change our operating bank away from Bank of California. That's Bank,
Bonka.
it's BANC, so Bank.
So that's not just short for bank.
No.
Well, it's Bank of California,
Mhm.
whatever.
Mhm.
Obviously, I have great
Mm.
love for them. I was trying to push Judith into, let's do it in October. And she gave me a reality check and said, that's not gonna work based on all these other things we're doing. So we're still pursuing that. We had two meetings with two different banks, or we had a meeting with two different banks. One I have a preference for. Judith would like to see at least maybe another one. One of them, we've basically immediately said, that's not our bank. And so we'll bring that back forward. We haven't dropped it, but we're letting you know while these other tasks are already time consuming. We want to make sure that that floats into a time frame that is actually doable and that Judith has more time to investigate, because it's a lot to move those accounts, the ACHs and all the things that we set up.
Getting our tax apportionments in there.
Making sure that the county absolutely puts the money in the right account. Right, so again, we wouldn't close Bank of California until absolutely everything is smooth. So we don't have lost payments. So that process will probably get closer to the start of the year. As much as I want it now.
That moves us, if there's no other discussion items, to board member comments and future agenda items. I don't have any, so.
Nope.
Not either.
So our next finance committee meeting is Wednesday, November 5th at 10 a.m. We are adjourned.
Excellent.
Thanks,
Thank you.
everybody. Good discussion today.
How are you? Good. Can I just say on the record
Yeah.
that
So hold on 1 second.
I would prefer to